Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Newbury Township Board of Supervisors meeting for September 23. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The board met in executive session before this meeting to discuss personnel and litigation matters. Agenda item 4, motion to consider consent agenda. Consent agenda A, approve minutes of September 9, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting. B, approve regular bills list dated 18th of September in the amount of $219,789.04. Approve prepaid bills list dated September 11th in the amount of $161,314.54. Dated September 18th in the amount of $5,771.39. And agenda D, approve escrow release number 8, final for 160 New Britain Boulevard, Mode Transportation Blue Bus Holdings LLC in the amount of $188,134.14. Do I have a motion? Bill, do I have a second?
Second.
Bridget, any questions or concerns from the board? No? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Agenda item 5, action items. A, consider a motion to accept and approve resolution 2024-14, 2025 police and non-uniform pensions MMO. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Stephanie, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Bridget? Township Manager, Dan, would you like to explain?
Certainly. Every year by law, the governing body has to adopt the minimum municipal obligations for our pension plan. We have two, the police pension plan and the non-uniform. The MMOs are prepared by our actuary each year. And they're attached for your approval. With some backup documentation from the actuary, which shows how the numbers were calculated. We need to certify these by September 30th of this year. So.
Any questions or concerns from the board? No? So we have a motion on the floor. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Action item B, consider a motion to approve the salt bid award that is recommended by our staff. Do I have a motion? Bill, do I have a second?
Second.
Stephanie? Dan?
Sure. Each year, the Bucks County Consortium goes out to bids for our rock salt. This year, the low bid was Morton Salt at $60.95 per ton. There were 3 other bids with the cover bid from Sylvie Concrete Products for $63 a ton. So I would consider this a solid bid and would recommend approval.
Any questions from the board? Do we have a lot of salt still on stock?
We do. We probably have about 300 tons sitting up there. We can max out at around 500, but we're set for right now. You could put in more, but before you do, you want to make sure you go in and break up because it solidifies during the, when it's not being used. Turns into concrete pretty much.
All those in favour, please say aye. Motion passes. Action, agenda item 4, information item, the financial report. Dan?
Yes, for both the park and rec and the public works, they are basically working together on the 2 projects, or the big project back here for the park with doing the basketball court, which is completed, except the backboards are up. It is going to be covered, surface covered, and lined this week, depending on weather. They don't want to do it if it's going to rain. They were going to be here today, but the rain was in the forecast for later today, so they want to do it. They're looking at tomorrow, but I think Wednesday it might rain. And then it looks like we might get rain early next week. with the storm that's coming into Florida right now. So it's all, it'll get done. It's just depending upon the rain. And they're starting, pardon me? It needs a few days to dry, and they're starting back up on the trail. We stopped that because of the Fall Fest. We didn't want to have it torn up and half paved and so forth. So they're back on that this week. Police Department, you have the chief's report. Nothing really going on there. No, actually. As everybody is aware, thank you. As everybody is aware, we had a nice big event at the shrine this past Sunday. The chief did send a detailed memo out this morning, or an email, discussing the coordination with all the various departments. When you sit back and look at all the work that goes into an event like that, it is pretty amazing. If you're a visitor, you don't see it. It's all in the background, and that's the way it should be. But the next time you go to an event, just all this gets done before you get there. And it's pretty impressive. And what I thought worked out really well is that obviously the intercooperation amongst all the municipalities, the counties, both counties, Montgomery County and Bucks County were involved. It's just a really, it's hard to, I mean, it's one of those things where it just makes you sit back and go, all right, they all work together. This is what we need. We can't all do it alone. We're not in this alone. We all get along. And that's impressive. And the other good thing was that it's nice to know that we have people in-house that can coordinate something to this extent. And that's the chief deserves a lot of credit, and the people that worked with him to get this done. Also, our Public Works Department was involved. They did a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And they were up at the shrine on Sunday for probably all day. They were there. They got there at 7 o'clock in the morning and left at 5. So it was a great team effort, and proud of our guys, or I should say our departments, because we do have.
It was
I always say.
and Chief being the point person for the whole thing, with all the other departments that came to.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave.
Zoning hearing board matters have been relatively quiet over the last couple of months. We did have one come in this past month. I believe for a couple minor residential setback issues, nothing major. And that'll be heard in October. As far as land development wise, we had a couple sketch plans come in. We have a couple scheduled for tomorrow night's planning commission, for 545 West Butler, as well as proposed 4-lot subdivision on Barry. That'll be heard tomorrow night's planning commission. As far as that, normal day-to-day activities in the department, enforcement actions, inspections, like crazy over the last month or two, because of the weather. Everyone's doing their work out there. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
I just wanted to say thank you. This will be your last meeting to join us here at New Britain Township. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
participation in the township, and all the best for you and your family in your new position.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anything from administration, Dan?
No.
No. Okay. All right, passing it now on to engineers report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Part of the engineers report, I thought I'd go over the PEC and EAC ordinance recommendations. I don't believe in prior packets you ever had their PEC audit, or they call it a stormwater audit. So that's why your packet's longer. I figured before we discuss my recommendations, we should put in the record their report. So Janine and I, you have a memo, our memo of September 17th, 2024. There's 6 items in your packet. Since there's a large audience here, I'm going to go into detail of every thing in there. What we did was we thought we would include what we thought was important for you guys. There's some other information that the staff had and we had, but the first item in your packet is our memo, which I'll go over very briefly on our recommendations, or our recommendations on what changes we've already made, our evaluation of the PEC comments. The EAC also did their own review July 25th. We went through that. They also did a lighting review. That's pending. I actually got some comments today. So I should have them to Scott. We can discuss them at a follow-up meeting. If I agree with them, then we'll just include them in changes. If I don't, then we'll probably discuss them in October. And then there was some miscellaneous Saldo amendments that the EAC also recommended to September 4th. And then I saw a prior memo from over the summer from the EAC about questioning. I know everybody sees my pretty face at the meetings, and we always call everything engineering, but there's a lot of staff behind me that puts this together, does all the land development reviews. In fact, Dave doesn't need too many of them either. We haven't any big traffic projects. We haven't any big planning projects. I mean, you haven't had a lot of big stuff where we had to bring in, other professionals, but I did include the resumes of our community planner, arborist. There's a couple guys in their environmental and geotechnical department that I actually still oversee. They work a lot more in Philadelphia, so they do the urban stormwater. They're professional geologists, not engineers. So we have a whole staff. I know Dan knows our structural engineer, Roman Yashemsky. He obviously wasn't involved in any of this sporting stuff, but he's involved in the other projects. But I know there's some questions about community planners, arborists, and geologists and whatnot. So hopefully the EAC and other members can see all the other people at Gilmore. Just a quick overview. We agree with 95% of the recommendations. So what I did was go out on a limb, and Janine did a bulk of the work. And I really want to thank her for all this, because it was hard to, okay, let's make this change, but it affects other places. And then it affects other things that we already gave to Scott that he's working on. We'll try to pull us all together by the end of the year. So we went ahead in your packet. We did respond to each question, but the real important meat of it is a couple pages in, and everything's in marked up red line. Those are our suggested changes. You either agreed with PEC and EAC and just made the change, or I tweaked it just to make sure it matches other sections of the ordinance. They may look at one section but not realize it affected three others. So Janine went through all that. We met numerous times together to figure out how to put it all together. And I just figured we have it all done for tonight. So it's ready to go. You guys can look at it. I don't expect to go over things tonight. If something pops up, I'll try to answer them. There's a couple stormwater comments or changes that are going to go in zoning, so I have to get that to Scott right away. And then we'll pull out the Saldo comments that are affected stormwater, and we'll also give that to him along with our own comments next week. So he should, within the next week and a half, have all our changes that I presented over the summer and earlier in the spring. And we'll have to squeeze in the lighting at the end. One, just to point out the couple areas that we didn't agree with, there was a comment, I don't think this is a big one, but they were talking about snow easements and what you can do for stormwater management and treatment of where the snow easements were. It so happens that we were taking that out. Staff, myself, we all agreed having these easements in cul-de-sacs where to dump the snow. No one knows where that is. To me, it's a legal issue. Scott agreed, and Dan really agrees, not knowing my position. And I'd already recommended we take that out. So we're not going to address that issue. And then another thing that the PEC brought up was more to identify historic streams, channels. It's not the stream or waterway, but an old historic channel. It turns out, and I guess they didn't realize it, but New Britain Township actually preserves not only water courses and floodplains, but also floodplain soils. So not every township does that. In fact, most don't. So to me, wherever there's wet soils, which are called floodplain soils, alluvial soils, that's 100% protected in this township. And I'm not sure everybody realizes that. We don't get it a lot, but in addition to your agricultural soils that you preserve in the watershed, that's 50% preservation. Anywhere in the township, you also preserve floodplain soils. But to do a historic and study to try to identify that, I can't imagine what the cost of that, and I don't think it would do any good when we're already preserving the soils that are indicators of any prior channels or wet area. So we don't agree with that. The rest we agreed with. Couple we had to change the minor requirements for overall. All those changes are done for stormwater management. EAC, they got into some things that I didn't anticipate, such as we were changing the year, how long the survey of a property is valid. So if someone goes out and surveys a property, they put a sketch plan together, they go through it before we even see it, 6 months to a year. Then they submit it, we do a sketch plan review, goes to the planning commission board. And if it's a big job, like say a Toll Brothers, 40, 50, 60 units, we're well past the 2-year requirement of how long it can be. So we were trying to extend that, so they didn't have to keep asking for a waiver because the survey information was outdated. I just settled so we could do 3 years. It's not a big deal, but I'm not sure where that came from, or they said there's no rationale to it. Well, we get that ask, I get that call all the time when these bigger projects and how long that information takes. So I think at some point, I think Dan mentioned Janine, maybe I need to talk to the EAC, have a meeting with them. I already said I would stop at one of their meetings if I could. Because there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that Dave's aware of, Dan and Scott and Alex, that projects take a lot longer to even get to this stage. So that was one example where we didn't really agree, but we figured we'd just compromise. I just want to keep the ball rolling and get this done at the end of the year. That is it. Lighting, I will, again, we're not finished with the lighting, so we'll, I don't think that's gonna be as bad as what I thought. We'll try to incorporate as much as we can of the EAC's recommendations, and then I'll present that to you. If everything's good, we'll make the changes and get on the sky. I will want to point out that a lot of the changes were kind of focused on urban stormwater, which has been around for a while. It's nothing new. We actually donate to the PEC and sponsor some of their events from years ago. I didn't even know that. We work with Patrick Starr over there and other municipalities. He's executive president at this point. But I compared your zoning just real quickly to show you how much you can preserve and improve stormwater management just by zoning regulations. In your watershed district, compared to like a Middletown Township or a Falls Township very built out closer to the city, your maximum pervious for a single family home is 12%. Middletown's 30, Falls is 20. I think there's a couple like Warmminster was 30. So you're only at 12. That's it. That's all they can put on their property compared to these are same size lots down there. Is 30. That's where you make a big impact. Your agricultural soils, I mentioned. The industrial areas in New Britain max is 65. Middletown's actually only 60. The Falls that keep up to 8. Certain situations, 8%. Your higher density, your townhomes, New Britain only allows 30, Middletown 40, and Falls up to 60. So Falls, and again, they're filled out, we understand that, but just to show you in the county, and when PC has more of a background of the urban planning and the urban stormwater, that's what they're really trying to, take care of every little thing in stormwater. And I think we do a good job of doing it through zoning, open space preservation, and there's different mechanisms that we do up here. So, so that's my little speech. Didn't want to get too technical tonight. More than happy if you get comments from residents or the EAC, I would just put them together, Dan or Alex, and then send them to Janine, myself. I'll try to answer them. If not, we'll get everything over to Scott, and I think we're looking for hopefully maybe advertisement in November. If they'll do that.
I think we're shooting for the second October meeting.
Okay, so that's for all your orders for everything we've done, zoning and Sourdough. All right.
Any questions from the board? Okay, I'm sorry, I have one. Only because I've been driving up and down the Butler, Business Route 202, and since we already have the saldo, we're about to open it to maybe change it.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask this question. Just driving down the road, and I've noticed we've had the 2 new projects, which was Wawa and County Builders. That the trees, it goes road, trees, sidewalk, nice big open space, then their fences. But looking at Merck Sharp and Dome, which is an older development, it goes road, space, sidewalk, trees in that nice big open space. Can you explain to me why you went the other way? You went putting them away from the road, in between the road and the sidewalk, which seems to be such a narrow area.
I was not involved in that, but that was the prior solicitor manager that wanted, I guess, some other elected officials and staff were trying to do more of a corridor kind of borough setting where the trees are close to the road. It was just something that they wanted to do in that area, trying to tie in the boroughs. And again, you drive in some of the borough roads, you got the nice trees and the canopy, but I prefer the other way. I think the trees will last longer. They're somewhere too close to the road.
Because what
So-
kind of trees are we asking them to put in that small strip? Is that supposed to be big shade trees?
Yeah, and that's something we looked at for landscaping. I think that's where the EAC did a great job, and the input we got is what type of trees can survive the salt and other things like that, that we didn't look at that in the past, so they've taken that to another level, and it's a great opportunity to change this stuff now, because we typically wouldn't make that change. And I can do that. I prefer the way you like it, is keep the trees further in. Bill's not his head. I don't like how it turned out, and I wasn't part of that, so I don't own it.
Sometimes when you write a law and then when you see it in practicality, you go like, oh, that's how it's
To be
done.
quite honest with you, that was the Butler overlay, and I think when Peter Nelson was looking at that with Eileen, and there's other people, but I asked Jean specifically, I wasn't really involved, didn't know the reason either, is that was probably a small part to what they were really looking at. Now you see it, there's some other things I like that you can pick material. Why are we picking material? If you're trying to get some nice uniform, the wall, like the Wawa wall and the lights, and we made that change at County Builders to match.
Mhm.
It says if they meet this parameters, they can do different type of materials. Well, why would we try to have all the street lights the same and the fences and what? Yeah, I can make that change if anybody has an issue with
Well,
it.
what does the board feel?
Well, I mean, I personally like the way it is, furniture. Right.
With them slightly back?
And the problem is with the apartments.
Mhm.
They don't have any curves in front.
No, that's part of the litigation.
Well, that's part of the problem.
I told,
They,
yeah,
they put curb down by wildfire.
I agree.
So that makes it
Yep.
radically different when you just have dirt tree, instead of curb,
Yeah.
and tree.
That's right.
So I think that's part of the problem.
And that's actually identified.
You're not gonna make it out here.
That's actually identified in the litigation about no curb, and I think
Litigation, I'm sorry, what's
the settlement plan for county builders, that was actually listed as a condition about. We had no say, defer to PennDOT on that. And that's where I try to explain to some of the neighbors that had stormwater complaints is, our hands are tied, it's PennDOT right away, but. I get a lot of questions why they got away with it. It wasn't our call.
That's all.
Yeah, the first big snowstorm and they're gonna.
Yeah, they,
Fine.
big,
And that plows come down
yeah.
the road and.
10-foot wide plow,
Yeah.
big wheel, I guarantee it'll go.
What I'll do is if they start dying, this is where Kevin Riley's pretty good to work with. I know it hasn't been a great project started off on foot, but he changed the lights for us. That was, that cost $20,000 to take care of those light changes, but if the trees start dying, maybe we can talk to them and I can, make some field changes.
Well, how does everybody feel about, directing Craig to have a look at that part?
So that'll be the Butler overlay corridor. We would just match the current ordinance, which
Yeah. So it's actually to keep that consistent. Yeah. This makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
Look at that one. Thank you. Anything else, Craig?
Welcome part of the meeting.
Sorry. Somebody asked for it to put on tonight.
Okay, so moving on to Board of Supervisors comment. I'm gonna start down the other end. Stephanie.
A lot of what I would have commented on was already said. Thank you, Dave, for all you've done. Good luck in your future endeavors. And thank you to everyone who's involved yesterday at the shrine. Not only did they have that, obviously not as much manpower went into it for the police department, but we also had our Fall Fest, which took their time on Saturday, so much appreciation to everyone who was involved in all of that. And thank you to all of the volunteers who helped make Fall Fest a success.
Bill?
I would concur about the volunteers for the Fall Fest, I think it went very well. And I think, that, former President Trump did not show up here. I think everything.
complexity to an already complex situation.
I do thank our police department for all their hard work and cooperation. And good luck to you.
Thank you.
Fall Fest on Saturday went amazing. We had a police department who was helping with that while they were coordinating everything else behind the scenes. Really impressive. You know, how they're, yeah, and then both and Public Works as well. Public Works was involved. They helped out tremendously on Saturday and then as well at the shrine. So just good job to everyone involved, all of our volunteers. It was, you know, a little bit dicey there in the beginning, but this is fun, and it all came together, and I think the kids, the families had so much fun. It was great to see everyone out there.
I think we've already said it all. Fall Fest was a great success due to our staff, our volunteers, everybody who was in the background. Definitely a wonderful event. And thank you to all our staff for both days. So no public comment, as we have no public at the moment. So moving on to announcements. Tomorrow night will be the Planning Commission at 7 p.m. We have the Environmental Advisory Council on Wednesday, October 2nd. And I was looking at the wrong kind of calendar, but the neighbouring event, Newbury Borough, was same day as our whole fest. So yes, making the agenda last week. Okay, so that was my fault. But congratulations to Newbury Borough for their 50th anniversary. Do I have a motion to adjourn at 7:29? Oh, and our next meeting is Monday, October 7th at 7 p.m. here at the Township Building, 207 Park Avenue. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Stephanie, do I have a second? Bridget, all those in favour? Aye. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.